Space is a mysterious place that many people would love to explore. But with limitations in technology, there's only so much that we can do to observe space. One way that we can observe space is simply through telescopes, observing here from Earth and looking far off into the distance. Now, there's only so much we can learn from that, so there is one other way that we can get to space and observe things in space, and that is by sending ourselves or other devices into space and onto other planets or the moon, different places in space, and even just so that we have a better view, less obstructed, of different areas that we want to observe that we aren't currently able to get to due to the distance. But how do we do this? How do we get these things into space? Well, we use rockets to send spacecraft into space. Pretty simple, but how exactly does this work? Well, rockets have fuel and an oxidizer to allow for combustion that pushes a lot of molecules out the bottom end of a rocket, which creates a lot of force. But why does this work? How does it get a rocket out of the atmosphere? How does it push against gravity, fight against gravity, and get to space? Well, there's a simple reason. You might think that maybe it's just pushing against the ground, but the force that would require just would be too much. We wouldn't be able to get to space. There would be a pretty hard limit to how high we could get. So what's happening here? What exactly is happening? Well, all those molecules are leaving the rocket at an extremely high velocity, creating a lot of downward force. And Newton's third law of motion says that for every reaction, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So there's a force going downward, but there's also a force going upward. This is called recoil velocity. And what it's doing is it's actually putting force against the rocket, and it doesn't need to push against the ground. So this is actually how we get to space with rockets. This is how we direct rockets, and why rockets, even in space, can still move around and can still have force moving forward. Because it doesn't need something to push against. If it did, especially in space, there wouldn't be much ways to move around. So this is recoil velocity. This is what allows us to explore space with rockets and different spacecraft, just how we are able to get to space.